Meningococcal meningitis is a bacterial form of meningitis that causes swelling and inflammation of the membranes covering the brain and spinal cord. It is caused by a bacteria called Neisseria meningitidis, which naturally resides behind the nose and throat. When the bacteria breaks through the protective lining of the nose and throat and enters the bloodstream, the person contracts the illness. Once in the bloodstream, the bacteria travel to the meningeus membrane, which is the area surrounding the brain and spinal cord. From here, the bacteria enters the cerebrospinal fluid. It is here in the cerebrospinal fluid where the bacteria multiply freely and release poisons that cause swelling and inflammation in the meninges and the brain tissue.
The meninges are a part of the central nervous system. Meninges are very fine membranes that provide a covering to the brain and the spinal cord. Meninges consist of 3 layers. The outermost layer is the dura mater. It is a tough and durable membrane that lines the skull and bones of vertebral canal that holds the spinal cord within. The dura mater surrounds and supports the dural sinuses, carrying blood from the brain toward the heart. The arachnoid matter, the second layer, is a thin transparent membrane that appears like a loosely fitting sac, attached to the dura mater. It provides a cushioning effect for the brain and the spinal cord. The pia mater is a very delicate membrane that firmly adheres to the brain and the spinal cord, and it follows all the folds and contours of the brain. The larger blood vessels found in the dura mater branch into tiny capillaries in the pia mater and nourish the brain and the spinal cord.
My daughter Charlotte had meningococcal septicemia in December 2010. Charlotte was nearly 3. My mum and my sister had looked after her that day. Absolutely fine, normal, nothing untoward. About 10 o'clock she woke up and was very, very sick, but very quickly and just settled straight back to sleep. So I just assumed that it was just one of the sickness bugs going around. I just kept an eye on her. I gave her some Calpol, and it just appeared that she was asleep. My coat, my bag, ready to go to work, and I just checked her, and she just had 3 really small purple sort of spots on her chest. And I immediately ran and got a glass. I rolled it over the spots, they didn't fade. And then by that point, because I thought, I just was alarmed then, and I called an ambulance. The patrol car came and he checked Charlotte's vital signs and obviously then called for the backup ambulance. The ambulance lady, said, hold Charlotte in your arms. And I think that was because she just didn't actually know if Charlotte was going to make it or not. And then by the time we got to the hospital, those 3 pinpricks had turned, into like a rash all over her body. And I saw the illness take over, like her eyes turned a funny colour. They went from white to like yellow, and I just saw everything take over. The staff was waiting at the John Ratcliffe, and it was just from there, it was like a real emergency fight, you know, for Charlotte's life. She was in hospital for 6 weeks, but she was in intensive care for 16 days. Her arms and legs were covered in bandages, and she was obviously very limited with that, and she was sort of sweating terribly because obviously her limbs had died off and they needed to be removed, and she was probably, I'd say, better after having the operation. She actually was, I'd say, healthier, and that was the start of her recovery.
An angel.
When we
invade the meninges, which are the tissues that cover and protect the brain and spinal cord. The meninges are arranged in 3 layers. The layer that actually touches the brain and spinal cord is called the pia mater. The spiderweb-like middle layer is called the arachnoid mater. The outermost and toughest layer is called the dura mater. Cerebrospinal fluid, which also protects the brain and spinal cord, flows between the meninges and over the surface of the brain. The most common cause of viral meningitis is a type of virus called enterovirus. Other viruses that can cause meningitis include the mumps virus, the measles virus, herpes viruses, and a variety of viruses spread by blood-feeding insects such as mosquitoes and ticks. Virus